So much to get to on today's show. We're going to talk about Jauan Jennings and Daniel Brunskill both signing their one-year tenders. We'll get to the latest on Jimmy Garoppolo and do a 49ers mock draft roundup because Todd McShay and Mel Kiper both combined to make 3 selections for the Niners in the first 3 rounds of the NFL draft. And we'll also talk about Deebo Samuel. But right off the top, I want to get to this tweet and report from Bobby Thompson because this came out during our live show in which we recorded everything else that I just broke down on today's show. I hope you're patient with us and you watch the entire video, but important to hit on this. So Bobby Thompson, in addition to reporting that the Niners and Deebo Samuel have hit a halt in contract negotiations, Thompson reports that Deebo Samuel has made his stance known. He's frustrated with the 49ers, and it seems he wants to play elsewhere. Keep an eye out for this. The draft is 9 days away. Teams have already shown interest in trading for him. Now, Bobby Thompson, he's not an Ian Rapoport or an Adam Schefter, but throughout the NFL offseason, he has been spot on with a lot of NFL reports out there, especially with big market teams like the New York Giants. He's an NFL journalist covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for the Bucs Report, the Patriots for the 617. He's a member of Fansided as well, and he's gone out there this offseason, and he's been spot on like I talked about with some of these reports. So this is certainly something that we're going to continue to monitor. Obviously, Deebo Samuel, if he wiped his Instagram of all things 49ers, is not happy with the lack of contract talks, or maybe he's just not happy with the current situation in San Francisco. I'd be confused as to why he's frustrated. I think the Niners have the money allocated. John Lynch has said that he wants Deebo Samuel to be a member of this team going into the future as a franchise building block. He's coming off one of the more impressive offensive seasons that we've ever had. There are great weapons on this roster, and he has a really good head coach in Kyle Shanahan. Now, is he eyeing going to a team like the Miami Dolphins, who they're led by Mike McDaniel, and obviously they have a really good relationship? Deebo Samuel called Miami and said, hire this man. Could he go to a team like the New York Jets or the Philadelphia Eagles, 2 other big market teams in the market for a wide receiver? I'm not sure how much stock I'm going to put into this report, but we have to talk about it, and we have to keep you updated on all things 49ers news and rumors. And at the end of the day, that is why you subscribe, and anything that comes of this will be the first channel to let you know. So without further ado, we'll get into everything else 49ers news and rumors related as I previewed off the top of this video. Welcome into the 49ers Report by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Senior. Hope all of you are having a phenomenal week. We have a phenomenal show on tap for you today. Here's what's coming up. Jimmy Garoppolo staying away from the 49ers as he does his rehab. We're going to get to the latest on Deebo Samuel. Could he get traded? Are the 49ers working on a contract extension? The Niners have made a couple of signings, and we'll do an NFL mock draft roundup. Todd McShay, Mel Kiper doing a combined mock for the first 3 rounds of the NFL draft. We'll take a look at the 3 players they have mocked going to the Bay. But we start off with some 49ers signings in NFL free agency. First day of OTAs taking place on Tuesday in Santa Clara, and because of that, players had to get their contracts made official. That includes Jauan Jennings, who signed his tender. He's going to come back in the neighborhood of $800,000 for 1 year. Paying wide receiver 3 that much money, or that little money, is excellent value for San Francisco considering how good he played last year. 24 catches, 282 yards, 5 touchdowns, a long of 34, but he was money on the money downs, coming through in the clutch and in the guts of the game on 3rd and 4th down conversions. I look for his ascent to continue alongside Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. He wasn't the only player to sign his tender. So too did Daniel Brunskill. So he is coming back on a 1-year contract as well. Of course, he filled in at right guard last year and played really, really well. He's going to have an opportunity to compete for the starting right guard spot in a couple of matchups against Aaron Donald. Throughout his career, he's fared really well. 17 games played last year, 5 sacks allowed. For minimal money, he's going to have an opportunity to be the starting right guard. And once again, few financial resources being devoted to 2 starting players. Up next, let's get to the latest on Jimmy Garoppolo. So Ian Rapoport saying on NFL Network this morning something that might actually sound worse than it actually is. Garoppolo will not be participating in voluntary workouts for the Niners this offseason. That coming from the advice from the doctor who did his shoulder surgery on that capsule by his rotator cuff. and a combined decision made by the San Francisco 49ers, a mutual agreement for Garoppolo to stay away and rehab that shoulder. So the latest on Jimmy G, this is the advice from his surgeon. He's not going to be with the Niners. I actually think this is great news for Trey Lance because he can get every single offseason rep. Garoppolo, according to Rapoport, not going to be able to start throwing until maybe June. It could last into the latter months of this summer. And there is a scenario, according to Rap Sheet, that Garoppolo comes back to either compete for the starting role or come back as Trey Lance's backup. I think the Niners are going full steam ahead with Trey Lance. I think a Garoppolo release or trade is going to happen at some point. And if he does come back as a backup, it would be financial malpractice to bring him back with a cap hit of almost $27 million. Either way, whether Garoppolo is on the Niners roster in 2022 or not, he's going to be away from the team throughout this offseason to rehabilitate his shoulder. And I think this is excellent news for the development of Trey Lance. Trey Lance is only 21 years old. He was 20 when he was drafted, played one full season of collegiate football at the FCS level in 2019, one game in 2020, looked raw in his 2 starts against the Arizona Cardinals and later in the year in a must-win game against the Houston Texans. I saw growth within those starts, but there's no question he has to work out the kinks, and he'll be able to do that, getting every single rep this offseason for San Francisco. I think that's important for him and his development, as well as the team, to get that continuity flowing. Do you want Garoppolo back on the Niners roster in 2022? That is our main poll question on today's show and the pinned comment on today's YouTube video. So make sure you get your votes in. Type on, type off. If you get hit with that YouTube ad break, just scroll on down and get your votes in. Let's get to the latest on Deebo Samuel now. Also, like Garoppolo, will not be participating in OTAs, but it's not injury related. We know by now it is contract related for Deebo. Looking for a new deal as the wide receiver market continues to explode throughout this NFL offseason. He wants to be one of the highest paid wide receivers in the National Football League, and this upcoming year, he's returning into the final year of his rookie deal worth less than $4 million. So we're going to look at a report from Steve Wyche of NFL Network, as well as Jim Trotter. Here's what Steve said. The 49ers, and I spoke with someone there, they've been in contact with the agent. They're trying to get something done, but this could be a long spring and summer before they get a contract done with the numbers that we've seen in that exploding wide receiver market. On top of that, I thought this was a blasphemous report from Adam Schefter. He said that the Niners would sign Deebo right now, but Deebo doesn't want to sign with the San Francisco 49ers. That makes no sense to me because he's played well in the Bay. He has a great head coach, a really good roster that can compete for a Super Bowl, but that was the latest report from Adam Schefter. I don't really buy much stock into that. Now, A.J. Brown, another receiver like Deebo, looking for a new contract, former second-round pick, and has been just a world beater at the NFL level, putting up ridiculous statistics, has joined Deebo in wiping his Instagram of all things Tennessee Titans. Deebo, on the other hand, has wiped his Instagram of all things Niners. I think this is somewhat of a corny trend, but this is what players are doing nowadays in the player empowerment era to put pressure on the organization to give them the bag. Remember how the 49ers do business, folks, because this is really important to monitor with these Deebo Samuel contract extensions. This is how the San Francisco 49ers historically have done business when it comes to giving some of their homegrown talent some contract extensions as they enter the final year of their rookie deals, like Deebo Samuel right now in the modern day. August 2020, they signed George Kittle to the highest paid contract of any tight end in NFL history, 5-year, $75 million contract at the time. Last year in the summer, July 2021, Fred Warner, similar situation, looking for a new deal going into the final year of his rookie deal. He signed a 5-year deal as well, worth more money than George Kittle, $95 million, which for a couple of days made him the highest paid linebacker in the NFL before Darius Leonard then signed his contract extension. So Deebo Samuel, the history is out. The word is out that the Niners are interested in bringing you back. I think it's wise and smart for you to return to the Bay, and this is how the Niners do business right here. August 2020, July 2021, they wait until the offseason and training camp is underway to leverage and offer these contracts. Coming up next around the corner on today's show, could the 49ers still trade Deebo Samuel? We'll get to that report from Jim Trotter on top of what we just got to from Steve Wyche as well as Adam Schefter. That's coming up right around the corner. But make sure you subscribe to the channel, because if for some reason, if somehow Deebo does get dealt, we'll be the first channel on YouTube and on Rumble to let you know. And whenever the Niners make a big move, we keep you up to date with all things 49ers news and rumors. So make sure you hit that red subscribe button down below, as the road to 60,000 subscribers is on. Over the weekend, we were able to surpass 58K. Appreciate all of you for making the 49ers Report a part of your life. Jim Trotter on Deebo Samuel Trade Buzz. He said this, quote, "I'm watching this before the draft to see if anything transpires with Deebo, because the Niners don't have those first-round picks that they gave up for Trey Lance in that trade. And this could be an opportunity to get some of those picks back if they believe they cannot get a deal done with Deebo. But keep in mind here, the asking price is high because Deebo Samuel is a very, very special player. So that's why these conversations and this contract situation has played out this way, because Deebo wants a lot of money and the Niners don't have a lot of money to give him. But look, when it comes to the Niners bringing back Deebo for 2022 and beyond to continue to grow a level of continuity and have that familiarity on offense, you have Trey Lance as your starting quarterback. He's young. He's inexperienced. He's raw, as we've talked about. It's imperative for Trey Lance, as a young and ascending, developing quarterback, to have a bona fide number one weapon at the wide receiver position, who can also take totes and carry the football. Guess who can help Trey Lance moving forward? That's Deebo Samuel, even if you have to pay him a lot of money. We're getting to a point nowadays in the NFL where these contracts continue offseason after offseason to be historic. That's because these salary numbers continue to grow and the value for these players grow. Great players demand a high price tag. That's what's going to happen with Deebo, and I think the Niners will sign him eventually. Are you worried about the Deebo situation? I want to gauge where the fan base is at with this question. Type Y for yes, type N for no. Like I said, I think the Niners are going to get a deal with Deebo done eventually, but a lot of people out there are worried. Now, coming up tomorrow is a grand holiday in the history of America. It is 420. And on Rumble, that's where you can find free, exclusive, censor-free content if you go to rumble.com/49erstv. And right now, we have 328 Rumble followers. By tomorrow, can we get to 420? Look, a lot of you are watching us from California. I know how you get down. I know you're about that life. Let's celebrate by getting to 420 followers on Rumble by tomorrow. How do you do it? You plug in that link down below, rumble.com/49erstv. You hit that green follow button. And for those of you watching us on our live show right now, we'll be going live exclusively on Rumble. And if you're watching after the fact, sometimes we go live on Rumble only. That's why you give us a follow on that side of things. Okay, let's get to the latest Todd McShay, Mel Kiper roundup mock draft to see which three players they have mocked to the Niners in the upcoming draft, which is coming your way April 28th to the 30th from Las Vegas. We'll be live for all 3 days, all 7 rounds, every single pick on our main Chat Sports YouTube channel, breaking down every Niners selection right here on the 49ers Report. So with pick number 61, the contingent of Mel Kiper and Todd McShay, they have the safety Nick Cross going to the Niners. And in his most recent mock draft before this, Todd McShay actually had Nick Cross going to the Niners once more. So this seems to be a popular pick and a popular trend. Safety maybe could replace Jimmy Ward as he enters the final year of his contract. And if you take a look at his numbers in 2021, this is a safety who can really do it all. I like how he's a head hunter. I like how he's physical. He's not scared to put his hat on the football, and he brings versatility to his game. He can play in the box. He can play on the back end, 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 3 interceptions last year to go along with 5 pass breakups. As for McShay's scouting breakdown on Nick Cross and why he has Cross going to the Bay, the Niners could look at someone like UTSA cornerback Tariq Woolen, but the value is much better on Cross here when it comes to the secondary. Jimmy Ward is entering the final year of his deal, and Cross has size, range, and versatility. Next up at pick number 93, who are the Niners taking according to McShay and Kiper? Zion McCollum, a really, really intriguing cornerback prospect. He's speedy, he has good size, solid ball skills. He potentially right away could become a number 2 cornerback, and that would add to the depth of this Niners secondary. Sam Houston State, a diamond-in-the-rough prospect who really intrigues me considering the value there with that number 93 overall selection. Final pick to get to, this somewhat of a splash pick for the Niners at 105. I also happen to really like it. A Purdue wide receiver whose numbers over time have been really impressive with the Boilermakers. Crazy college production, but because of shaky testing at the NFL Combine, his stock has fallen because he ran about a 4.6 40-yard dash, which isn't ideal. 2021 stats, though, with like decent quarterback play. And that's what you have to factor into some of these wide receiver prospects. They were excellent, folks. 93 receptions, almost 1,300 yards, 6 touchdowns, average yards per catch at 14. So while he might have run slow, if you put him in the slot, sometimes you put him out wide, and he gets to benefit and be the beneficiary of playing with Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, and George Kittle. This guy, considering the value of where the pick was made, could be a very good value selection for the Niners. So speaking of the NFL draft and those 3 selections from that ESPN mock, which players do you like in the NFL draft? I know a lot of you have that as your niche, evaluating some of these prospects. So let me know your scouting evaluations of some of these guys and drop me some names in the comment section. And thanks so much for watching today's video.